Hi, everybody, and welcome to today's Spotlight series with Finsight. And I'm here today with Jane, Harvey, and Nicolas Collinson, the co-founders of Savii. My name is Richie Santos, Diaz, an economic development advisor with many hats, such as the head of Middle East and Africa for the Fintech Power 50, as well as the Fintech Times. Welcome both to today's little chat with Richie.
Thank you.
Thanks, Richie.
Pleasure to have you both today. And can we just, for the audience tuning in, just kind of describe a bit of your background as well as your career thus far? I mean, we'll start off with Jane. Jane, do you want to elaborate about your background and career with everybody?
Sure. So I'm Jane Harvey, the co-founder and CEO of Savii. And, my background is not in the banking industry or the finance sector. I lie, I spent one summer working in the local bank in between semesters at university, but aside from that, my career started in manufacturing and moved to oil and gas. But my first degree was in product design, and I think in there, I really loved the opportunity to build products, to create something that was solving a problem for people that they experienced every day, and that was really probably what triggered a little bit of the entrepreneurial itch in me. However, post-university, I got distracted into the oil and gas industry because coming from the northeast of Scotland, that was a very easy career move for me to make. In 2011, I moved out to the Middle East, and it was actually working in oil and gas that I originally met Nicola more than 12 years ago. But moved to the Middle East, started our first startup together then in 2013, I think it was. 3 startups and many lessons learned later, we now find ourselves in the fintech space, building Savii, the first neobank for teens in the GCC.
Excellent, thank you for that. Very diverse career from manufacturing your 1 month in banking.
Completely,
very
completely.
And we all end up in.
And I think even the startups have been in very different industry sectors. So.
Excellent. Thank you for that. And how about you, Nicola? Can you elaborate a bit about your background and your career as well?
Yeah, so I am Nicola, the co-founder and COO of Savii. Again, my background is not finance. Most of my corporate life has been in commercial roles in the oil and gas industry, which is, as Jane said, where we met. I think from a family background perspective, though, both my parents were in financial services. So I think the kind of the lessons and that we're trying to teach teens with Savii is something that was instilled in me from a very early age, and I just take it as second nature. So I think that is part of the inspiration. My childhood is part of the inspiration for launching Savii. I think, like Jane said, we've been working on startups since 2013, very different areas, and now we're in fintech. So.
Very inspiring. So I'm inspired to ask you both the question now. Why fintech? Because obviously you both, oil and gas and that. Can you just elaborate in terms of why fintech? I mean, Jane, do you wanna kick it off?
Sure. I remember I think it was around about Christmas 2019. I was out with some friends, and I was listening to a lot of them sharing their frustration and their woes about their teenagers not understanding the value of money, and I think thinking it because money is far more digital these days, that we don't know what it is, we can't touch it, we can't feel it. They were wanting more credits on online gaming was a particular issue that I kept hearing about, but just the fact that swipe your card, mum, there's money there. They had no idea where this was coming from or what the value really was. So I think that was really kind of spurred something in us. And I remember quite distinctly sitting down with Nicola for a conversation one day talking about this, and I said, if we could go back to our 14-year-old selves, what would we tell us about money? What is that message we'd be bringing back to our 14-year-old self again? And I think that really was the kind of initial spark of thinking about a product in the fintech space.
Excellent.
Yeah,
and Nicola, do you have anything?
And I don't think we consciously decided to go into fintech. No. Like we said, we've launched startups in many different verticals. It just happened that this problem that we identified comes with a fintech.
Was a money one.
Yeah. So.
Excellent. So, I mean, obviously there was kind of a bit of inspiration there. So you saw kind of a challenge and then a gap. So then what specifically then inspired you to set up Savii? and what are you looking to achieve with it? And especially with the teenagers and the banks, because obviously with this conversation you had, how did that inspire you to set up Savii?
So I guess, Nicola and I both over the last maybe 3 to 4 years have really immersed ourselves into the FIRE community, the financial independence retired early community. Mm-hmm. And, as a young adult, kind of reflecting about myself, I always classed myself as an exceptional spender. I earned money and I thought I was always kind of deserved to treat myself and go and buy things. And whilst I might have been a savvy saver, I was never really good at putting my money to work for me. But I think immersing myself, certainly in the FIRE community, and I can't talk for Nicola, but that really helped me understand my own relationship with money. And again, that was really looking at some of the lessons I've learned later in life, back to that conversation with my 14-year-old self. If we could go back there and think about, how do we teach kids how to budget? How do we, teach them how to save with a purpose? How do we make sure that every dollar that comes into my possession really has a purpose in life? And these are some of the lessons, we're not teaching kids about money in school. I know from our own customer discovery, rarely are those conversations really happening at home. So we went, let's try and create a product that can really start to instill some of that learning at a much younger age. And as I say, the impact of starting some of those things early will just drastically change your living and your adulthood.
Excellent. Nicola, do you have anything you want to add to that as well?
Yeah, I think personally from my perspective, and I guess anybody's perspective looking at it, we kind of took it for granted when we were young in Europe or, the US or wherever, that at 13, you go to the bank, you open your bank account, you get your passbook as it was when we were there, but now you get your debit card and off you go from 13 and you make mistakes and you learn lessons as you go along. Yeah. In this region, that's not available. I think the banks don't see under 18s as a profitable customer segment, so they don't really provide any tools or banking facilities for them. So they just kind of get dropped into the world of banking at 18 and don't really fully understand or appreciate how it works. So we just want to give them the opportunity to learn that as early as possible and prepare themselves for that adult life or, when they go off to uni. So.
Excellent. So I heard from the grapevine that you guys are going to have Bahrain as your next launch market. So congratulations on that. And why specifically the Middle East? Do you see some kind of the gaps and challenges here specifically where Savii can be a possible solution in this market? I mean, Nicola, because I believe you're based here. Do you want to answer that in terms of why the Middle East?
Yeah, I mean, yes, we are launching in Bahrain. I think we chose Bahrain as our first market. The fintech ecosystem there, the regulators, it's a very fintech friendly environment. We have seen a lot of companies have huge success launching in Bahrain as a kind of test bed to then expand into the UAE and Saudi and the rest of the region, which is what we'll be doing. I think in terms of the Middle East as a whole, we all know we're slightly behind compared to the Western countries when it comes to banking and finance. And I think that's why we saw an opportunity in this market, really.
I think as well in this region, Richie, we've seen traditionally it's a very cash society. We like to use cash in the Middle East region, but the pandemic really has accelerated the move into a cashless digital society in the region. And, again, talking to a lot of families who might have traditionally really relied on using cash and been somewhat skeptical of things like Google and Apple Pay, have now become a lot more comfortable with that. And we've seen a lot of businesses not wanting to accept cash anymore. So I think that's terrific, but we've really left teens behind. They are still heavily burdened with cash. And, the best way we have for parents to try and instill some kind of financial responsibility in kids is by giving them a weekly or monthly allowance, but they can only give them that in cash. And 3 of the 4 top areas that kids want to spend money today are online. So they still require mum and dad's credit or debit card. So it's a really kind of messy environment there at the moment. And I know kids are desperate at financial independence to be able to spend their money online themselves and not have to continually go run into mum and dad. And we know from a lot of parents we're talking to, same thing. At the banks, they're asking for a debit card, they're asking for a bank account, they can't get one if it's them. So that's really why we're building Savii. We want to build a platform that enables the lives of teenagers, of youth online.
Excellent. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot of activity happening in the Middle East, as you both described, and wider digital transformation. The pandemic kind of obviously globally accelerated it. I mean, like my own mother now knows how to use technology. So if my mom can use it, anyone can use it. So no, it's remarkable. It's interesting. And now I just want to, the future question is where do you actually see fintech in the next 5 years? Jane.
I certainly, I think fintech is going down a really kind of hyper niche market in terms of demographics and building products, whether it's banking for nurses or banking for taxi drivers. I think more and more we're looking, as consumers, we're looking for a really personalized experience with these products. And I think fintech, is a great way to be able to do that. I think traditional banks, one size does not fit all for us anymore. But I think being able to bring, financial technology products to the marketplace, it's far easier to build these products out, like we are with Savii, building hyper focused on that youth market only, is build an experience that they want, that they need.
Mm-hmm. And Nicola, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think for me, the whole kind of digital currency space is what everyone should have their eyes on at the minute. I think the adoption is growing. There will be a lot of traction over the next few years. Decentralized, centralized, we don't really know what it's going to end up looking like, but I think the fact that the likes of Visa are now partnering with companies to enable, transacting in cryptocurrencies, and the UAE just launched, they're about to launch their own digital currency. I think it'll be interesting in 5 years' time to look back at where we are now, and I think it will be one of those step changes where we go, I can't believe everything was in cash and in dirhams and dollars, and I think it's an interesting space to watch, and I think we will be paying attention to it because the teens love it. So.
Absolutely, it's something even for everybody, right? That it's an exciting space, exciting future. And I have a final Savii question for you both.
I like it.
So I don't know. I thought you'd like that one. Any personal remedy for those looking to do business in the fintech space, and especially entrepreneurs who are looking to set up their own companies? Any advice you can give?
I think for me, certainly. We've heard it personally, in order to be able to build a fintech, you need to have an investment banker on the team. And I know investors have told us that. I don't agree with that at all. You don't need to come from a banking background. You don't need to have that in part of the team. In fact, I think it can only be an advantage if you don't, because you're coming to these problems with a completely, fresh perspective. You're not being hindered by any, kind of previous banking experience. So I think definitely that. And for me, probably our success today, and Nicola might agree, but is been surrounding ourselves just with the right mentors and support that understand the wider ecosystem and can really help you navigate some of the many hurdles and challenges you encounter along the way.
Excellent. Nicola, anything you want to add to that as well?
I think kind of echoing what Jane said, fintech looks like this super daunting, area, vertical, but I think it is a steep learning curve. I think the banks, particularly in this region, the banks and the regulators are slowly getting dragged along by the central bank to, adapt and modernize, and they are slowly coming around to the fact that fintech is here to stay. It's not going anywhere, and they are a lot more approachable now. They're a lot more willing to support fintechs, and equally fintechs need to be supporting the banks. We need to do this together. There are a lot of partners that you need to work with to make a fintech work. There's a lot of moving parts. But I think what we've found really is that the players that you need to speak to are very approachable, more than happy to help, more than happy to, fill in your knowledge gaps. Nobody knows everything. And I think just don't be afraid of the word fintech. And I think, like I would say, we're not finance people. If anybody has a great fintech idea, now is the time to do it. particularly in this region. And if anybody wants to chat about it, feel free to reach out, connect with us on LinkedIn.
Excellent. And that's very good advice to kind of sum up today's chat. So, embracing fintech, surrounding yourself with positive people who can help you with your journey, and then obviously educating our teenagers in terms of spending money, right? So I wanted to thank my both Savii guests. Thank you so much, and have a good one.
Thank you for having us, Richie.
Thank you. Bye.